Welcome to In the Know with Bloom, and today we have Melody Paasch. Melody, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Matt.
This is our first time in the studio, so it's been a bit hectic this morning, but I appreciate your patience.
Oh, this is going to be so
it's
much fun.
Yeah, it helps a lot when a guest is patient, because then it gets me into the right state of mind too.
It's really fun being here. Thank you for having me, and sort of on your launch.
Yes.
It's like
Very exciting.
first.
And today we're going to talk about what you do. So can you please introduce yourself to the listeners and talk a little about what you do?
Absolutely. My name is Melody Paasch, and I have an online school that it's really for anyone in the United States or out of the United States, but we have it's actually a tight-knit community because we train in intuitive gifts. So we help people basically identify their giftings and their skills. Sometimes, especially spiritual gifts, they're sort of buried and people are not aware that they're there. So we help identify that, and then we help refine and develop those things through things like dream interpretation and the prophetic or the intuitive. And we work to develop those in people, and then we want to help them be launched into businesses where they can actually use the skills that they have. So that's so the reason even though we're an online school, we're very unique because we're online, but we're super tight-knit because all of those things that we teach are very intimate. When you start going into people's dreams, things are coming out. You're going into very deep-seated emotional places and generational places, bloodline things. So it's very interesting how well you get to know each other.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what I do. On the side, I do intuitive readings for people and things like that, where I use my own giftings to serve people. But my heart is really to teach others to be able to hear as well.
Okay, so it's like unlocking someone's potential as to why they're here.
Absolutely. It's like let's find what your destiny is, and you know how everybody's called to something there. We all have a purpose, right? But opposition would come against that, right? And try to shut that down, and often does, especially if you have like a seer gift. The enemy will, the opposition will send night terrors, things like that, so that you are not seeing. But we need the seers, right? So what happens is our destiny, or our original DNA, spiritual DNA, sort of gets off center, and we go through life sometimes never really realizing what our destiny is. So it's exactly what you said, unlocking the destiny.
Okay. So you do this through dreams. And dreams is looking into the subconscious, right?
Yeah, as well. Yeah, as well as the bloodline. You can find a lot of things from the bloodline in your dreams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more then about dreams. What is dreams? Because some people have it naturally where they can dream and they remember it. Some people, they wake up and they immediately forget. And what's the purpose of dreams?
Well, the psychologists are going to tell you, and it's true, that you process through your dreams. So that's why we work in our dreams. A lot of times your dreams will be about your occupation, what you do, especially if you're anxious about something, and so you'll be working through situations or circumstances. That's all sort of the natural side of it, but the spiritual side is, I really believe that Creator is giving messages. Sometimes they're warnings, sometimes they're about your destiny. Recurring dreams are often about your destiny, which is very cool because everyone has some recurring dream that they either had when they were a child or maybe they're having currently. Direction, all of the direction I've had, Matt, in every aspect of what I do or have done in the past 20, 30 years has all come through dreams. It all comes through dreams. My daughter used to laugh and say, "We need some direction. Would you go take a nap? Would you just go take a nap?"
Oh, that's
right?
very nice.
Because you get a lot of direction, and sometimes there's a map there. So sometimes it's working through things, but it's also there's strategy there in your processing. The deal is, a lot of people don't give attention to their dreams. We're not trained. We're usually pragmatic, more analytic. We're not trained to look at the spiritual side or the supernatural side of life and of our existence. So we sort of ignore that and say, well, I ate pizza last night, so I had this crazy dream, right? But I believe that in every dream and every type of dream, that there is a message there. There's something there that you can actually use. But the more attention you give to your dreams and to your sleep, the more you will begin to remember them.
Okay.
So if you put your journal or your book and your pen next to your bed and you ask Creator for dreams, expect then when you wake up, then very likely you'll have something you remember. But it's a discipline like everything else.
Yes. Yeah.
So the more attention you give.
Got to put work into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't be lazy.
And then, so you help the people interpret their dreams. How do you go about doing that to understand or to decode the dreams?
Yeah, it is a bit of decoding. There is a metaphoric language that Creator uses in dreams, and even though He speaks to each of our colloquialisms, you may have a statement that you say on a regular basis. He'll use things like that, but He'll also use whatever is in your reservoir. Say I watch the movie The Matrix before I go to bed at night, right? And then I have a dream that I'm unplugged from a false reality. What's happening is Creator is speaking through my reservoir, what's in my reservoir. So basically what we do is we take the students through some of their own dreams and talk about how their dreams and understanding their dreams and really unlocking the enigma, because it's such an enigma, of your dreams can give you the direction and the strategy you need. Once they begin to understand that, then they can also learn to operate in interpretation for other people's dreams. So it's actually easier to interpret someone else's dreams than it is yours, and that's because it's hard to be objective, right? So if I have a dream where I wake up and my emotion is fear, then my filter is also colored by my fear. So it's hard for me to be objective, right?
Yeah.
We were talking in a meeting the other night about epigenetics.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So say my grandmother was attacked by a big black dog. So I hate big black dogs because she hated big black dogs. But I didn't even know she was attacked by a big black dog, right? Epigenetics comes down through the generational line. So much is there. So we try to address those things as we're looking in your dreams, because all of that type of information is actually coded in, like in your DNA. It's coded, it's written into your dreams. And when we open that book and then look at what's there, we can begin to see lots of things about what keeps us confused, anxious, in a place where we feel stuck or stagnant. So those are the benefits of really looking at your dreams and learning how to interpret. But there is a completely different language.
Yes, yeah. I can imagine.
Right? It's so funny. We have lots of dreams about, like, trains. We'll have all these people. And it's funny because different seasons will have different elements that are subject of the dreams. Like several of my interns will all of a sudden be, right now they're all dreaming about Hurricane Harvey, obviously, because there's so much of that going on in the flood. And of course, I'm from Texas, so that's near to my heart, worrying about or being concerned about those people. But sometimes we'll have different elements. So there'll be like a season where everyone is dreaming about trains. What's interesting is Creator is super into puzzles and just
like riddles.
he loves that stuff, or she loves that stuff. I don't so much, right? It frustrates me, right?
It's
but
difficult.
It's like so trained. So it's about the fast track. Sometimes it's about actually getting on the training, getting into training.
Okay.
He does a lot of times plays on words. It's so interesting. And he seems to really get a kick out of that. And I'm like, what? What up with this? I don't get it. Just be clear with me.
Humor in it.
Absolutely, always.
That's nice.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. I think that's the humor is such a funny thing. I think when it comes to spirituality and those kind of like ideas, there can be a lot of people that are very serious about it, and I think that's where it gets a little too dogmatic, because they're too serious, and
right.
I'm a humorous person as well. So
right. Don't you think we just take ourselves way too seriously?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that the humor, I think, diffuses things, especially when you have very intimate and difficult things that come up, in the generational stuff through your dreams. Sometimes I think Creator will use something amusing to make it lighter so that you can, it's really sweet like that, so that you can actually look at it. And so much of our trauma, it gets stuck, right? Like all matter has memory, basic quantum physics, right? So your cells, your blood has a memory. So trauma is written on your cells. Cells are shaped like a little disc, right?
Okay.
Right? So the trauma that you experience is like written into your blood. So then we're going back to the epigenetics thing. But she wants to, Creator wants to clear your trauma, right? Bring healing to those areas where then what you have is your original DNA. Going back to what you were saying about unlocking your original destiny, because we get ideas throughout life, sometimes influenced by our families, whatever, our forefathers.
Yes.
My parents expected me to go to law school or whatever, right? But what were you really designed to do? And let's get there.
Okay, so it's just stripping down all the influences that we've had growing up as children, and just for epigenetics is pretty much the environment around you that changes your genes or switches on different genes. So it's an interesting concept, because we were always taught that genes is only you have this certain genes and that's it.
Right.
But we actually have control over
things change.
Yes.
Because everything is an alternate stage, right? I mean,
yeah. And then I want to talk about the Creator or God, because like I told you before, I was brought up in a Seventh-day Adventist background. I went to church on Saturdays. It was very strict in the sense that on Friday evenings it's Sabbath, and we switch off. We should be switching off all electronics. We commune with God, and that's like the rest day. So from Friday evening to Saturday evening, and we go to church, and that's how it was. But I was taught that, in the Bible, we taught that God can be quite a strict and I would say like an egotistical God, where He says you shouldn't be following anyone but me. I'm your God, a jealous God, and if you do things wrong, it's tough.
You're gonna pay.
Yeah, there was a lot of consequences to breaking the rules. But the way you explain Creator, He seems like more of a humorous person wanting to help us even when we're in the wrong.
Absolutely.
So what's your image of God?
You know what? This was a tough place for me. I was born into the traditional church. So my dad, both my grandfathers were denominational preachers. I actually come from a Baptist background. God love them. I love them. But what I got was more no's than yeses and more orders than freedom. Even though the Word of God, the Bible actually speaks of, if you want to call it that, the Bible speaks of freedom, but it was hard to experience that freedom. What I have now learned is this is my experience. My experience is that God is not this big judge sitting on the throne waiting to hit us with lightning. He has actually made concession. Now, the church doesn't like me for what I believe in this way, but this is the deal. If God says, and he says it about himself, that he is love, and because he loved us, he sent his most precious gift, which was Jesus, his son, right?
Yes.
Those are the teachings. Then Jesus is redemption. So I look at it I simplify everything.
Okay.
You know, I'm sort of simple. So if God is love and Jesus is redemption, then there's redemption to everything. So you can't go around judging people and not seeing their potential and the redemption in them. Jesus met everyone where they were. He never said to one person, "Oh, you must go and get cleaned up, and then you can come to me." That's nowhere in the Bible. So I really believe that it's difficult reading the Old Testament. That was before Jesus was given, right?
Yes.
So we read the Old Testament and we think, okay, he's this harsh, judgmental character that I wouldn't even want to meet. Why would I want to have a relationship with him?
Yeah.
But the reality is, we are his most precious masterpieces, and
Created in his own image.
if we are created in his image, then there is a deposit of his DNA in every one of us. I don't care whether you say you know God, you know Jesus, I don't care. That is the reality. If he made us in his image, then he loves us and he wants to be close to us and he wants to draw us close to him. But it's because he loves us. It's not because he's expecting us to perform or to be perfect, or because you know what, we're never going to be that.
Yeah.
So he loves us in the state we are in. I believe that. And he draws us to him and wants to have a relationship with us. But it's a one-on-one, very natural, casual relationship. And I believe that when the Bible talks about the fear of God, it's talking about this deep love and reverence rather than fear. Because there is no fear in God. Because the Bible also says that love casts out all fear. So if God is love, then how can I fear him?
Okay. Yeah. Very simple.
It is simple.
Very simple. Where do you think we got distorted the image of God? Where do you think that came from?
Humanity, unfortunately, will always lean that direction, no matter where they begin, not to be negative.
Yeah.
But because there is this, I'm going back to fear. Fear is the root of all control and manipulation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So I fear that you're going to go too far to one side. So I'm going to control you and keep you here in a safe place because I care.
Okay.
But the deal is, control and manipulation is actually witchcraft. And it's lording over another human being. So there is no freedom in that, and that's not ever God's heart. But that's where it originates, is I'm afraid you're going to mess up. So I'm going to give you these parameters. You're going to stay here, and you're going to stay on this straight line, right? There are lots of things that we're not talking about, but I'm simplifying everything. But I think that it is simple with God. He wants relationship with you. And now I go around and I speak into people all the time. I go to festivals and things like that, and I give readings. People order 30-minute MP3 readings from me, sometimes once a month or whatever, and I just record it and I send it to them in an email. I have to stay very objective, and I can only give what I hear. Right? I can only give what I hear. But if I speak into someone, just if I'm seeing just the negative of who they are instead of calling out their potential, then what was the use of me even giving the word?
Yeah.
Because if we're not speaking creatively, if we're not releasing the creative manifestation of God's heart, right? Genesis says that he hovered over the waters. His spirit hovered over the waters. Well, it actually uses the word brooding, and that word translates to vibration.
Okay.
It's a frequency, right? And then the word says that he spoke everything into existence. Well, it was his frequency. We all have a frequency. So his frequency is creative. So if what he gives me to tell you is negative, then it can't be from God. It's probably from my head, from my soul, or from my filter, someplace where my woundings are not healed up.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Jealousy, anger, rage, abandonment issues. I'm speaking out of issues that are in me rather than the heart of God. I want to be speaking the heart of Creator because he's going to call out, he's going to show me the potential in you and then call that out. And because there's a creative frequency in his voice and in what's in his heart, then what's going to happen is my words are going to land in your spirit. It's going to open a portal in you if I did it right, hearing from Creator, the heart of God. Then it's going to open you up so that he can speak to you, so that the spirit then can hover, brood over you and release your destiny into you, rather than I've stood before people who call themselves prophets, and the finger comes out and it's very judgmental, and I'm like, I leave going, what was that?
Yeah.
Right? You can tell by the way you feel, because in your spirit it will resonate or not resonate. Right? If it resonates and in a positive way, it's likely that is the heart of God. But if it resonates negatively, it couldn't be, because that's not who he is.
Okay.
That's my theory.
And then I'm just going with my skeptical mind.
Yeah.
And for those who are also skeptical, how can we open up to this idea that you speaking through God, or
That God speaks through me.
Yes. How can we understand that, or be open to that idea to receive his love?
Right. Well, as I was saying, your spirit, you have the same spirit, the same deposit in your DNA that God does. We talked about that a minute ago, because you're his creation, right? Okay. If Creator created you, made you, gave great thought to you, and put his DNA in you, then by your spirit, you'll be able to resonate. You'll know by the spirit. You'll know. You'll walk away thinking, yeah, Yeah. I feel loved. I feel valued. I feel, yeah, right? It's going to resonate with you. If you walk away and you're thinking, now you might think I'm crazy because I am. So that's sort of the natural thing. You know, you might say the crazy lady from the U.S. said blah 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 blah, and I don't resonate with any of that. Now, when I say resonate, I'm not talking about agreeing with. Remember, if I'm actually hearing the heart of God, then I'm speaking to your potential, not where you are today.
Okay, yeah.
Now, I might see some things where you are today, but I'm speaking to your potential. So if I say to you, oh, I believe that you're going to write a book, and you're thinking, I'll never write a book because it's just not on your grid, that's one thing. But in your spirit, you can feel whether it had a clean resonance or a whether you're defiled or not. We need as humans to discern it. So discern it. You're sitting across the table from me. Mm-hmm. Discern me. Do you discern that I would lie to you? You're gonna have we have to use what's in us. So what do you discern? What do you discern about me?
Not much.
Really?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
Really?
Yes.
Now, see, I discern a lot about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I discern that you have a brilliant mind.
Okay.
And throughout your life, may I speak?
Yes. Sorry, I actually didn't even know the definition of discern.
Oh, discern. Sorry. To assess by the Spirit.
Okay.
To assess by the Spirit. So to sense. To sense.
Yeah.
What do you sense? Do you sense that I am a liar? Do you sense that what do you sense from me? Because we are all intuitive.
Yes. Yeah,
Every human has an intuition. Sorry. Yeah. That's another word. But yeah, what do you sense, right?
No, I sense a connection between us, the way my words flow.
Yeah.
So what is it that you discern?
So what I sense in you is that as a very young child, that you were unique. That you were unique. Now I also sense that you have a gifting in your feet. Let me see if I can explain it. It's I see you literally dancing as a child, like wildly dancing as a child, like, and as your feet are hitting the floor, like in this rhythm, something is breaking open. You literally are called, the frequency in Matt is literally called to break open atmospheres. And you can break open the toughest, the strongest atmospheres by simply being you and releasing your frequency. Mm-hmm. That's why you're unique. You also have this brilliant mind. You can look at things and you can see how things sort of go together, and you can, in your mind, you can take things apart, you can lay it out in front of you, and you can figure out how to put it back together. You have this sort of, it's almost like an engineering, like a spiritual engineering. You see how things go together. Some of that you have actually stepped into in what you're doing, but you're only about halfway. You're only about, I don't know how old you are, but you're only about halfway into the fullness of that gifting. There's more to come, and I see in the next few years, there's going to be this sort of exponential, like multiplied expansion or advancement. It's going to go very, very, very fast. You're going to begin to step into some areas of media that are going to, I know you feel like, well, I've started where I started with what I had. I started with the small, right?
Yes.
I've been faithful. I've been diligent. I've been vigilant with what I have. But what's going to happen now is you're going to have, I see 3 opportunities, 1, 2, 3, like 3 doors. And I feel like Creator is saying, take all 3, do the one that's first in front of you. That's the one you have to walk through first. Now, when you walk through this one, that is going to open up and fountain over, and you'll wind up in the other two. But this is going to happen very, very quickly. So it's like being. Have you ever driven a Jaguar?
No.
Okay. Well, it's like
I've
flying.
been in a Jaguar.
It's like flying a plane. You know, the transmission is very smooth. So when you go from, one gear to the next, it's not like, it's more like, it's very smooth. And it's like you hardly feel you went into the next gear. That's what it's going to be like. The next 5 years are going to set you structurally, going to set your feet where you need to be in place. You're going to be highly sought after. So this is the deal. You're going to have to be very discerning. You're going to have to sense where you need to put your focus, because not all of the invitations are for you. Some of them are going to be distractions to keep you off of where you need to be, because and I don't know how to explain it better, but I sense that part of what you do, or part of your heart, is to benefit the underprivileged in some way. So I don't know if that means a foundation will be built. I don't know. But with everything that you do, I see there will be this spillover that will benefit a community of people that you have a heart for. And some of those people will be just artistic people that have not had a voice, because you're going to allow them to use their voice. But you're going to sense when, where, how, who. You are going to know.
Okay.
You're going to know. But the thing that's in front of you is where you're going to go. And then suddenly it's going to open up very quickly.
Okay. So I resonate with all of that.
Ah, fantastic.
And it's because I'm aware now of what's happening, and you making it more clear. And I'm just keep going skeptical, because I want there will be a lot of skeptics on here, and I want them to understand from my point of view, because I resonate with that.
Okay. And you've never met me. You don't know me.
Exactly.
This is our first time together.
Just when you started with dancing, I already said yes, because I've been doing ecstatic dance by myself. After doing it in Bali. It was actually a funny story, because I left Bali. I left my friends and to go to a different place in Bali. They went home. It was this whole thing that I was supposed to leave when they did, but I didn't. And that day that I arrived in Ubud, which was all by myself, the next day I just decided to go out, because I didn't have any plans. I didn't know what to do. And I went to the yoga center, and funny enough, they just had at that time an ecstatic dance hour-long session, and it was free. I just went in, and that's how it started, with ecstatic dance, and then I brought
There's
it home.
your invitation.
Yeah, just interesting how it correlates. I'm just pointing out why I'm resonating with this.
Right, and this is a great,
just seeing, and then obviously starting this whole journey, podcasting. Like you said, we started with very little. My friend and I have just the equipment that we had, and now look where we are. We've got our first studio recording. So yeah, it resonates with me, and I just want to ask, because it's so positive, and it's like almost too good to be true, right? So there's a lot of people that will say, oh, but this is just too good to be true. Of course you're gonna, start relating things to what you're saying. Well,
sure.
Well,
this is the deal. Remember the part where I said the danger is there will be opposition that comes to try to take you off course. So everything is conditional, right? You have to walk through the door to get to the door. You have to walk toward the door, you have to open the door, you have to walk through the door and be there, show up every day and do what needs to be done for it to work. But this is the thing, The danger or the warning in that is because you're very empathetic, right? And because you love people, they're drawn to you. You're going to have to be careful not to get distracted. So, but is Creator's destiny for our lives too good to be true? I think often it feels that way because we're so trained to see the negative rather than he has an incredible plan for your life. But that is the truth and that's the reality. And we can choose to see that or not.
Yeah.
But each person has to choose for themselves.
It always stems from belief, I always say.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now let's chat about your book.
Well, what I did, Matt, was I needed a journal that had the right template in it. So what I did was I published a journal called, Now Interpret This Dream Journal. And this, I'm sorry, this is my personal journal. So it's a little ratty, but this is what it looks like. And you can actually get it on Amazon, but we'll figure out a way. You can, if anyone in the audience is interested in the journal, I'll be glad to give Matt the information. But basically, the template looks like this. Do I have a minute to sort of explain the template? It's quite interesting. The template basically looks like this. You can see I write in my journal every night. And so the first thing that I have is the day and the date. Now, the reason I have the day and the date is because sometimes your season is important to what's going on with your dreams. Okay. So I always write those down. Now, the other thing I do is I put the time, but it has to be the digital time. And it's because for a year, I actually, I woke at 3:33 for a year. Yeah, and would have similar dreams, and the dreams were about, are you familiar with Freemasonry?
No.
Okay. It's actually a secret society in the States. I think there is a part of it here in South Africa called Broederbond.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a secret society where my grandfather was 33rd Order in Freemasonry. So it was interesting that I was waking every day at 3:33, and then after doing some more research, the house in which I was living was actually on the 33rd parallel. Sometimes research is important, so you can go lots of places with all of that.
I just want people to, if they're interested in why 333 and 333 is
right.
3 is a divine number. So,
absolutely, and it means established. It means done, established. The other thing is, remember me saying that the digital time is important because 3:33 wound up for me being in the Bible, Jeremiah 33:3, which actually says, "Call out to me, and I will tell you great and mighty things you have not known," which was what I was doing. Was I was calling out to a Creator saying, I don't understand this and I don't understand that, and I was having a bit of a meltdown, a bit of a tantrum, not understanding things. And so it became very clear. It then became very clear. So it's like, oh, so if I ask, then he will answer. Okay, right? So that's why the digital time is important. Then the emotion is one of the things that we write down. And often your emotion is going to be connected to whether the dream has a positive or a negative, I don't want to use the word outcome, because I believe all dreams are good.
Yeah.
Positive or negative, they all have a message which can be used to your benefit. But the emotion will tell you sometimes how to, which way to lean on the symbology when you start, because 99% of dreams are symbolic. Very few are literal. However, lots of people do have literal dreams, and all of my literal dreams have literally directed me into, and in the beginning of the book, there are examples of, and I'll tell you about one of those because they're fun. But let me finish talking about the template. Sorry,
No problem.
already chasing rabbits. And then there's a who, where, when, what. And you fill all of this in so that you don't forget what's going on. And then the location of the dream. Remember I said that the house I was staying in was on the 33rd parallel. There's our divine three again. Something was established. I find out later what all of that is. And then point of reference. Point of reference would be, I'm scheduled to have an interview with Matt. So the night before the interview, Matt has a dream about the interview with me. That's the point of reference.
Okay.
Now, what that says is, that can be literal in context, or it can be saying, pay attention to this. It's about timing. It's about this moment. Any dream where you drive the car that you actually have in current life, you're wearing the same clothes that you actually have in current life, that means pay attention to this moment. It's for now. If it's something from your past, it's talking about where you've been, right? And if it's something you do not recognize at all, it's a car you've never seen, it's either something for the future or it's representative of something in the future.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So then you title it, and then you write the content, and then after that you write the interpretation. That's the template of the journal, and that's why I wrote it this way, because it's the template that Spirit gave me. It's
because
cool.
Dreams also, when I just said one thing goes from the next to the next, but if you can just structure it like that and then start writing, it makes a lot more sense to
Absolutely.
go through the whole dream.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I'm having, I wake up, now this is, can I give you some tips on remembering your dreams?
Yes.
I sleep with earplugs and a mask. The reason that I wear earplugs is because when you're in mother's womb, everything sounds like, right? It's like you're underwater. It's your safe place, right? That in utero, that's our safe place. So when you put earplugs in, that's sort of what you hear. You're not distracted by the dogs barking in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
I wear a mask because you have natural levels of melatonin in your body, which you need, right? But you see light through your eyelids.
Yes.
And if you see light, then it shuts your dreams down. Psychologically, right.
I've only got the light ones. I don't have the dark ones.
Oh, man.
No. But get the light ones. So this is interesting that you say that, because I like biohacking.
Yeah.
And I recently bought these glasses in America, and I've got the daytime ones, which blocks out artificial fluorescent blue lights.
Right.
And then I've got one that's specifically designed. It's the only one at the moment. It's red, pitch red, and it blocks every spectrum that messes with your melatonin.
Come on.
Yeah.
I have to see those.
True dark.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because I actually know of people who have cancer that is diagnosed because of their levels of melatonin being too low. Interesting, eh?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have the bag. Yeah, so we can't show. But
well, so that
very
is
interesting.
We'll send you the link on that podcast.
Yeah.
right. So that is why it must be dark. Because when you come out of the REM state, right, where you're coming out of your dream, then your eyes even though your eyes are not open, your eyes then focus and you begin to read light. So I keep my mask has a little pillow. There's no crack of light over my nose. So then I can then lay there. I don't turn on the light. I don't sit up immediately, go into my day, or I'll lose everything. What I do is I lay there and I begin to walk back through. Okay, last night I was with my mother and we were packing to go on a trip. By the way, this was the dream that I had last night. And we were packing to go on a trip, and mother had everything already packed up in the car. She was ready to go. I was staying the night with her, and so I'm walking back through it. Now, as I'm walking back through it, all of that's coming back to me because I'm staying in the element of the dream.
Yes.
I'm walking back into it. So then I go through all of the elements of it. Then I get up, I pull my mask up, I turn on a very small light, one only large enough to see to write. And I write, Mom, her house, right? What, we're going on a trip. And then I start filling in the details. Now, because I have those main points, it brings all the details back, and then I have them. That's how, that will help you tremendously. But if you sit up, you remove the mask, turn on the light, immediately your mind has gone to your day, and you're out of your dream life completely.
Yeah. Because I was trying to lucid dream a while back, but there was apps that you could download and you could journal, but
Yes.
the lights of the phone always messed with, and I didn't want to mess with my melatonin or my sleep cycles. And then obviously I didn't want to write in a book because then I would have light. But okay, this makes a lot more sense.
I actually have a very small flashlight that I actually travel with. Now, sometimes if it's very, very vivid, I can turn on the night light. But I have a very, very small flashlight, and I literally hold the tiny flashlight and I write just the main points and just a couple sentences. I turn it right back off and I go back to sleep. Sometimes I go back into the same dream. Sometimes I go into another dream, but when I wake up in the morning, then I look at those elements and go, oh yeah, I did dream that, and then I can go back into it again and write down the details.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Exciting.
But you're right, those like Penzu and some of those apps you can get on your tablet and stuff, the light is, it's very difficult to, because you just lose it all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please let us know what you're doing here in South Africa, because you're here for a reason. So.
I am here for a reason. I actually, sorry, spoiler alert. I am a weeper. I just weep. But because I feel things deeply. In 2012, I was invited by a South African friend to come to South Africa and speak on dreams, teach on dreams, which I did a bit. A lot of things happened during that time. I traveled around with a traveling partner for 3 months. We went all over South Africa, wound up in the Cape. But when I went home, I was invited back to basically start my school here. My dream and prophetic, my intuitive school here. It took me 5 years to get back here.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes the vision is there.
But the timing.
But the timing is so important. And had I gotten here earlier, it wouldn't have been prepared. That establishment wouldn't have been ready like you in the next 5 years. Suddenly that I arrive, we have a mutual friend. The mutual friend says to you, you should interview this woman about dreams. The reality is it's not about the dreams. It's about helping to launch you into the next 5 years, because that's part of my gifting and part of what I do. So, timing, right? So now I'm back. I was back 3 or 4 months ago, and just looking at how we could set the school up here. I basically teach in I stand on 2 different platforms. I actually still teach within the organized religious structure, the 4 walls of the church, where I teach believers, or that would be my hope, to teach people in the church a different language so that they don't go out in the streets and they judge people by their covers, but they actually hear heart of God and release heart of God to someone, so that the recipient can actually benefit and be opened up. I believe that the prophetic gifting actually, like you were saying earlier, unlocks things in people. And it was interesting, several years ago, I had a dream about the foramina magnum. Now, the next day I go into my chiropractor and I say, what is a foramina magnum? And he says, wow, that's really weird that you would ask about that. That in the medical industry, we actually call that the gateway to God. Right? It's the small hole at your occipital, the bottom of your skull, where your spine comes through and connects with your brain.
Okay.
Right? So all of those messages then go and tell your body what to do, right? So how all of this relates is, I believe that when we speak intuitively, but from the heart of God, of Creator, that it opens up a portal in people where they can then receive greater revelation and greater knowledge and greater help in their destiny, where sometimes we have walls around us, right, based upon our trauma, our woundings, our experiences, Pavlov's law, right, all of our experiences,
All the veil.
all of that, right? So he wants to, Spirit wants to break all of that down, and one of the ways he does that is through the intuitive. So I'm teaching in the church a different language where people can actually operate in that and open the recipient up. So that's one platform upon which I speak. So we have been invited to Amazing Grace in Paro, Amazing Grace Ministries, and our classes actually start. It's an 8-week class, but we're pushing it into a month. I'll be here for about 3 more weeks, doing classes on Thursday nights and all day Saturday. But our first class is tonight, so we're starting. That'll be our first intro class for dreams. But I'm also looking for a venue and a platform where I can do that outside of the church, outside of organized religion, because that's really where my heart is. That's why I'm teaching the church. Go out into the street. Go affect something. Get off a pew, right? You're all full, fat, and sassy, right? You're supposed to be full of the love of Creator. Go out now to the streets and do something with it, right? So that's what I'm here for, is we're starting our first intro class, and I'll probably be back in another 3 or 4 months for another class, God willing. Creek don't rise. That's a Texas saying.
Oh, okay. No, that's very exciting then.
Yeah.
And then where can people get a hold of you or understand a little bit more if they want to dive into that?
Yeah, the best place to connect with me is going to be melodypaasch.com, melodypaasch.com, or nowinterpretthis.org. And it's all just one word, just nowinterpretthis.org. And the .org site is actually our landing site, which actually gives information about the internships and things like that that are for the online school. But if someone just connects with me and asks about the school in South Africa, I can get you connected either with Amazing Grace if you want to get into that class, or any other classes that we might be. Or if you have a venue or a group that wants to have a class, please contact me. Yeah.
Okay.
And our cost for the class for the whole, it's like 8 or 9 hours. It's 8 or 9 hours for the whole class. I think the church is probably charging 1,500 rand, which I think that for the whole class is very reasonable.
Yeah,
so we could do that in a secular venue as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Can I give you a hug?
Yes, you can. I'm a hugger. Oh,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Delighted. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.